Welcome back to Manga Storian's Complete Story series. Today we're going to be covering Berserk, chapter 135 to 139. Now when we last left off, Guts traveled along the road towards the Tower of Conviction and he ran into a young boy named Ishidoro, who was attacked by the Jushin scouts. After killing everyone, Guts continued to press on while Ishidoro decided that it might be a good idea to follow this rather highly skilled swordsman. It was late into the night as the Midland refugees sat in their tents, all staring at one tree in the center of their camp. On that tree was the waving skin of a man. And elsewhere in the campsite, some of the refugees see Farnese's company moving along, and they swarm around asking for food. Farnese tells everyone that all of the provisions, medical supplies, and other materials are required by the Vatican. As unfortunate as it may be, she cannot provide any of the shipment to them. One woman pushes through the crowd stating that she needs help. Her child no longer has the strength to breastfeed. God's divine protection is needed. Farnese lifts the visor to her helmet to listen to the woman, and then the voice of Mosga says that she will be well spoken. For her courage, the Lord will show mercy. Farnese calls out that if they let these people who attempted to take their provisions go unpunished, they will. But Mosga says, normally I would take that into consideration, but their blasphemous ways are motivated by the welfare of this woman's child. Mosgas then calls out for these people to come with them. They will be led to shelter. As the escorts arrived at Saint Albion, Farnese watches as some of the members of the Holy See open a window and they pour out food scraps for a few of the hungry beggars below. Once inside, Mosgas tells the refugees to head into the next room and he takes the mother and the child to see a doctor. The doctor looks over the child and says that his condition will improve so long as he gets rest and nourishment. She has nothing to fear. The mother runs over to Mosgas telling him thank you, and he smiles and tells her, I do not deserve your thanks. I am merely executing God's will. Now come this way. Your duties as a believer await. He leads the group through the two heavy steel doors, and inside the refugees are being killed and tortured in horrible ways. Everyone gasps at the sight, and Mosgas says this place is for people accused of robbery, rape, murder, and worst of all, heresy. Outside was the flayed skin of a monk, and after your inquiry, we've managed to capture many suspicious people. As the woman screams, Farnese turns her head and Mosgas leans down telling her, do not avert your gaze. What you are seeing is another side of the Vatican that you have been sworn to protect. Though God has love for all things on this earth, he also is a stern judge of man. Mosgas then places his hands on the mother's shoulder, telling her that he will help her of her past sins, even though her courage and love must be praised. A sin is a sin. The woman is stripped, and then she is set on a wooden chai, and one of the executioners holds out a burning piece of coal. Farnese watches in terror as she listens to the woman's screams as the coals are pushed onto her. A short while later, Farnese is ordered to bring in a man accused of heretic actions. The man shouts that he is framed. He isn't a heretic, he's innocent! Farnese tells him that it is the word of the other refugees who have made these claims, so the man screams back to the people that if he ever comes back, he'll kill them all! While everyone moves along inside of the tent, the woman Luca listens. Luca works as a prostitute, and while currently working, the man tells her that she should put in a little bit more effort. She tells him that she's sorry. Would his female commander be mad if she found out that he stopped here for sex every day? The man Jerome says that he does not care about the commander. No one does. Whenever she opens her mouth, it's about the mission or religious fervor. She lacks leadership, but the commander of the Holy Iron Chain is always a woman by tradition. But as Jerome begins to get back into rhythm, he sees a woman's bandaged head poke through the tent. The two stare at each other for a moment and then they both scream. A short while later, Luca says that she's sorry about the interruption. That was her younger sister, Elaine. And the bandages are, well, she has syphilis. Jerome says that it's fine, they can end it here today, but here is the normal payment, plus a little something extra. Jerome hands her a pearl necklace, telling her that it's worth a fortune, and Luca says that she would feel out of place with this, and Jerome says that it's because once their mission is done, he would like to marry her. They can even take her sister and get her in the care of a good doctor. Luca smiles, telling Jerome, thank you. I will not expect anything, but I will be waiting. As Jerome leaves and Luca waves goodbye, 4 of the other prostitutes come out stating that they heard the whole thing. They would like to work with the nobleman. Luca tells the others to come in and begins to hand out the food and the money that she has gained as well as the necklace. She breaks the string, sending the pearls flying, and the other girls ask why she did that. Luca tells them to split it evenly. They're all prostitutes and they have to stick together. One of them having more than the others could lead to problems. That is why they throw their lots in together. They build trust and survive together. Casca begins to cough, and as she moves her tongue around in her mouth, Luca smacks her in the back of the head, making her spit out one of the pearls. The hit causes the bandages to come loose, and Luca says that they can't have that. She ties them back on. She then looks into Casca's eye, telling her that someone as pretty as her can't be walking around. She might not make it home safe and sound. Soon after, an ugly man pokes his head in the tent, shaking a bag of coins, telling Luca to hurry up. She tells him that she'll be right there, and then tells Nina to watch over Lane until she gets back. Before leaving, Luca also gives Nina a small vial, saying that she spoke with her doctor client about her problem and said for her to take this twice a day. Nina takes Casca by the hand and tells her thank you, they'll go draw some water and come back. As the girls head down into the river, they stop to see a man in a stock being stoned. Everyone in the crowd shouts at the man, calling him a heretic, and then Nina walks by. People stop and stare at her for not throwing it. She kneels down and nervously throws the rock at the man. A short while later by the river, she fills a bucket of water, and as she looks down, she sees blood dripping down her leg. She begins to think that the blood won't stop, and now there's pus. The insides of her mouth are swelling as well. Maybe there really isn't any hope for her. As she stands there in her own self-sorrow, Casca feels something, and the brand on her chest slowly begins to seep blood. Across the river, some of the undead spirits begin to take control of the dead refugees, and they call out for a sacrifice. However, across that river, there is someone else watching, and then they notice the deformed infant in the field. All of the spirits starts to crawl towards it, and Casca too is drawn to this infant. Nina grabs Casca by the arm, asking what's wrong, but all Casca can do is make sounds. Meanwhile, inside of the tower, Farnese and the knights begin to eat, and Farnese has trouble as the images of the dying refugees flash throughout her mind. At another table, Jerome sits with the other knights, while one of them asks why they are even here to help Mosgus anyway. Jerome sighs, saying that it's probably because of the commander. She is completely enthralled by the faith. Maybe it's just because she's a woman. As Farnese overhears, Serpico bumps into Jerome's table, spilling his soup, telling him, "Oh, I'm dreadfully sorry about that." He then walks over to Farnese's table, and Jerome and the others ask how could someone worthless like him have risen up in their ranks. After supper, Farnese and Serpico head over to see Mosgus, and the two notice the executioners feeding the crows pieces of skin. The other executioner, who is completely covered, asks if there's something wrong. Farnese tells him no. They're actually looking for Mosgus, and he tells them that he is currently in the chapel. Let them all go together. As they walk, the man asks if she's surprised to see the twins like that, and Farnese tells him no. She then explains that they have all suffered at the hands of persecution because of their appearances, and then begins to take off his mask. As the mask comes off, the man looks back, and Serpico says that he looks like a pretty nice guy. The man holds out his hand into the light, and soon his skin begins to boil. He says that he's had this strange disease since birth, causing his skin to become inflamed the moment the sunlight touches it. Because he has the appearance of someone who's burnt, he banished himself from society. That's when Mosgus comes in and covers him, wrapping a robe shielding him from the sunlight. He's gathered all of them, claiming it to be God's divine will that they all meet, and that they are all chosen children of fate. The man puts on his mask, saying that he has no love for this work. However, he also has no love for that which harms people. The three continue, and as they come to the chapel doors, Farnese begins to hear a loud thump. She asks what was that, and the man tells her that it is the sound of prayer. As the doors open, they all see Mosgus standing there, and then he slams himself face first into the ground. Over and over, he bashes his head into the ground, and the man says that this is the bowing ceremony. Mosgus does this for 1,000 times in the morning and again in the evening. From what he understands, Mosgus has done this every day for the past 10 years, not missing a single day. Light shines down on him, and the man says that it seems that he is finished. So then he welcomes everyone, and Farnese says that he seems to be bleeding from his legs. Mosgus tells him that he doesn't notice it due to the fact that he has very little feeling in his legs, but these wounds are just proof of his faith. He then asks, "What is it I can do for you? Surely you have come here with the same question." Farnese hangs her head and says, yes. She doesn't fully understand what it is that they are trying to do here with the people. What is it that they are accomplishing? How is it saving anyone? As of late, the people have been seething towards them with malice. Though she can understand a few are upset, there has recently been more and more talks of this. Mosgus smiles, and then he looks at the holy symbol, telling Farnese the story of a woman long ago. This woman dedicated her life to helping the poor, and through her travels, she has seen many people dying all around. She would stay with these dying people until the moment of their passing so that they would not feel alone. However, there was one man who pushed her away, stating that he has spent his life in isolation because of his beliefs, and he did not want her to dishonor him in his hour of death. Mosgus goes on reciting scripture, telling Farnese that she must not be disheartened by their difficult task. Do not be disheartened by the view of people. We shall shed the blood of flesh and mind, so long as we go on living solely by the good of God. That is what we call faith. Farnese kneels down as Mosgus ends, and Serpico scratches his chin, wondering, what is that supposed to mean? The covered man says that they must go. They must all leave, and Serpico mentions, there seems to be something not quite right here. But Mosgus' arguments are faultless. Farnese looks back at the holy symbol, thinking that this is solely for the good of God. It is for God that they proceed. Over atop the chapel, The being from before watches and scurries away as everyone leaves. Back down in the camps, Nina hands over some of her earnings to some of the people, and then she sees Casca playing in the puddle with some of the children. Nina shouts for her to stop or she'll be covered in mud, and then they see the young man Joachim appearing. Nina tries to hurry along with Casca, stating that if it's about work, he'll have to ask one of the other girls. He says that that's not it, and then she asks, does he want to know about her health? Does he still want to sleep with her and knowing what's wrong? He tries to tell her that that isn't the case, and Nina snaps back, stating that if it's none of those things, why doesn't he just go sleep with another girl? But rather than leaving, he stands there, and Nina leans in, telling him that if he has courage, meet at the river's edge at midnight, and then walks off with Casca. As Nina storms off, Luca pokes her head in the tent, overhearing the conversation, and at the stroke of midnight, Nina heads out and sees him waiting. She runs up hugging him, asking if he loves her too, and he tells her that he does. She then asks if he's willing to hold her in his arms forever, so that they can die together. Will he be willing to descend into hell with her? He nervously looks at her and he tells her, we'll be together forever, yes. Nina smiles and kisses him, telling him that they can be together and it will not be about business. But now they must go to a place sacred to a dread deity. The two walk along the river, and atop the hill Luca watches and closely follows behind. But even behind her is Casca, who wanders along the path, seeing all of the spirits coming out. And that concludes Chapter 138. Don't forget to subscribe to Mangastorian, and don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at Mangastorian to help us vote on the next stories that we'll be covering. I'll see you next time, right here.